Wondering about the true facts about lead paint and what to do when buying or selling a home? I'm Julie Marion with Huddle Real Estate, and lead paint is what we're talking about today. So let's get started. Lead paint is a hazardous material that was used in homes all over the United States and was banned in 1978 because when lead is ingested, it can cause health issues in children under the age of 6. Their bodies are so little and developing that the lead toxin is very tough on a little one. What happened is that a lot of homes and public housing projects that were built were painted. And as the paint aged and the kids were playing in the dirt near the house, or the paint inside was peeling and the kids would touch the soil or the surface, such as a windowsill, they would put their hands in their mouth and they would eat the lead paint. This isn't good because lead is toxic. Additionally, when someone was getting ready to repaint something, they would sand down the surface, and that in the sanding in preparation of the paint job turns into dust, and when inhaled through our body, through our nasal cavities and our mouth, the toxins enter our body that way. Scientists found that high levels of lead can cause brain damage, so this is very serious and nothing to be dismissed. But back in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, many of the products that we used contained lead. Everything from crystal glasses to ceramic pitchers to kids' toys. And once a connection was made that lead, when ingested, is toxic, lead became a substance that was banned. As a side note, there are still products that are manufactured with lead in them, especially products that come from other countries. I've had several clients where their kids have had high levels of lead and the lead came from their toys. There are websites that list out those products so you can check them on the internet. Now, getting back to lead paint specifically, much of the housing stock was built after World War II when the servicemen were coming home from the war and they bought homes. These homes were painted, and fast forward to 1978, the lead paint was banned, but the houses already had the product in it. So what do you do if the house was built prior to 1978? Well, there are 3 things you should do. The first thing is know that there is a possibility for lead paint. The second is to test for it, and the third is know how to encapsulate the paint to keep your children safe. Testing. There are 2 ways to test. The first is with a lead inspector, and then the second is with a test kit to test the surface of the paint. When a lead inspector comes to the property, they are going to test all the paint surfaces, and they will be looking at movable parts and paint surfaces 36 inches and below, windows, windowsills, moldings, etc., things like that. The machine used to test goes from the surface level of the paint all the way down to the wood. If there are multiple layers of paint, the test will indicate that there is lead. However, it cannot tell you exactly which paint layer contains the lead. The good news is, at the end of the test, you will know if there is lead or not, and you will have a detailed report as to the location within the home. The surface test is something where you rub a solution on the paint, and there is a cotton stick that turns a color to indicate whether there is lead or there is not lead. If you have kids and there is lead paint, you will need to decide if you're going to buy the house or not. And if you are selling and you have the lead test done, then you will need to disclose there is lead paint. So here's the big loophole. The lead law when buying and selling a home in Massachusetts is that the seller must disclose known lead paint hazards. So if the seller does not know or did not do the test, then there is nothing to disclose. This information is communicated through a property transfer lead paint notification and is given to the prospective buyer, and the buyer must submit this form with the offer. The form is also signed by all parties involved, including the real estate agents. Now, if the seller does not know whether or not there is lead paint, they must give the buyer a 10-day period in order to conduct a lead test. Now, any house that is tested in Massachusetts that has lead paint in it, it goes into a state database, and you can look up to see if the property that you are researching has lead paint. Now, over time and as properties change hands and renovations are completed, the lead paint could be removed. However, the way professional painters or lead certified painters mitigate lead paint is to encapsulate the paint. So look to see the surface where the lead paint is located and if it needs to be painted. The paint is not toxic if it does not enter the body, so covering it up is safe to do, and it is what is recommended by the EPA. People get into trouble when they prepare the surface for painting. When I was a housing planner, I read an article about an architect that had bought a house in Philadelphia, and he has sanded down all the paint surfaces in the stairwell, the moldings, and other areas of the house. He was living in the house with his family, and the house was full of kids. Turns out all his children had elevated levels of lead, and his kids were very sick. So it's important not to disturb the paint. I hope I'm not scaring you. It does sound very scary, right? And if your child has lead poisoning, it is scary. But remember, a lot of Massachusetts housing stock is old, and a lot of houses were built before 1978. So instead of only looking to buy a newer house, if you are a buyer, you may want to understand how to handle the situation so that you have a lot more homes to consider. As I mentioned, if you are a seller, it's important to make sure you disclose the information, but if you don't know, then it's okay. And a question I get often is, as a seller, do I have to remove the lead paint? The answer is no, but you must disclose the information if you have it. Now, if the house is older than 1978 and you've remediated the lead paint, you can get a certification form from the state. A lot of people don't do this because they don't want to have to remediate it, and sometimes once the children get past the age of 6, they don't really care. But it is a great tool to have if you know you've encapsulated the lead paint. If you are new to Massachusetts, remember children get tested for lead levels when they enter school, and it's a marker that is tracked as they age. So especially if they are positive, the annual doctor exam is another way to monitor and keep our children safe. I've had several friends that have lived in homes with lead paint, and their kids do not and never had elevated levels of lead. Their kids don't play in the soil around the house, and they don't eat paint chips. So think about this in your family as to how you actually live and play in the home. One area that constantly gets flagged is the window area, and a lot of people change out the windows. As we now know, 30% of the heat is lost through single pane windows. The newer windows, of course, that have the movable parts don't have the lead dust that can be created as the older windows do. So you're safe that way as well, and you get a nice economical heating bill. There is so much to do when buying and selling a home in Massachusetts, so before you get started on your home journey, it's best to become knowledgeable and know what to do. There are several links available directly to health resources and the EPA. If you have any questions about lead paint, please reach out to me. I'm Julie Marion with Huddle Real Estate, where we buy and sell every home as it is our own. Make it a great day.